So recording is in progress. I will open the chat room. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the chat or via audio, whatever you want. Thanks again before I start the recording. Thanks again for flexibility. That this lecture could be online. Also, sorry for saying it at short notice. From next week, the lectures will be on campus again. Ali will teach the lecture next week. But for now, due to personal circumstances, this lecture is online. I have very strong COVID vibes doing this again. I was hoping this was not necessary after 2 years of teaching online in my office alone, looking at myself on screen. But you know, it's what it is. Let's start the lecture. The last 3 lectures were considered innovation in organizations, and today we're starting the second topic, which regards technology and organizations. We will have 4 lectures. We talk about an organization strategy, we talk about the structure and culture of an organization in relation to technology. We talk about process in organizations, and we talk about people in organizations. And those 4 topics basically cover the main aspects of what exactly an organization constitutes. An organization is a definition of an organization, what it does. An organization consists of people. An organization has some structure and culture, and an organization revolves around processes of people doing certain stuff and then communicating that to others. Together, that is what an organization is, and those are the 4 topics we'll be discussing in the coming lectures. So we start with strategy. In this lecture, I will talk about general business strategy, and also connected that parts to technology and technology use. But also a lot of the lecture is just about what is an organization strategy and mission and vision, etc. So forgot to make an outline. So we talk about strategy first, and then we discuss several strategic tools that you can use to assess the strategy of an organization. Those tools are things like Porter's 5 forces model, and those are exactly the things that you need for your business plan as well. So we start with strategy. Last week we discussed what a business model is. We discussed what a value proposition is in relation to a business model. And the strategy is actually not that different from a business model, only on an organization level. So a business model kind of defines your innovation or product, and defines what exactly what needs the innovation covers and what people will seek the innovation. Together with an idea of how that would make money or at least provide some value. The strategy of an organization can be seen in similar terms. So a strategy of an organization is also basically a description of what does the organization do in general, and why would people need that. A business model then is more focused, of course, on the marketing and external components, while a strategy is really more focused on the organization itself. But they both describe what exactly do we do. So this is what a strategy is. A strategy is basically basically a strategy describes what an organization is. So if you read the strategy of an organization, you know in what kind of area the organization is. You know, if it makes peanut butter or provides information or sells insurance or whatever. So that's the part of the strategy. It's basically a description of what the organization does, but also with some future direction and action. So with what the organization wants to achieve. So formally, strategy is the future direction and actions of a company with approaches to reaching specific objectives. They are fundamental choices, and there needs to be a fit between the organization and strategy. I will explain all these later on. When we talk about strategy, it's best to have kind of a layered approach to strategy. So on the more top level, there's kind of a mission and vision of the organization, which is like the higher level strategy. What does the organization do? And a lower level strategy is more like a concrete plans for the coming years. We'll get to that. First of all, why would you need a strategy in the first place? Well, you need a strategy because the environment of an organization is very complex. An organization works in an external environment that consists of a lot of external and internal stakeholders. So you have your competitors, you have government, you have stakeholder groups, you have suppliers, you have lenders, you have labor unions. So you have all kinds of stakeholders and you have all kinds of forces in play, technological innovation, developments in policy and legal developments that all can change and that you have to take into account in your future development of an organization. So organizations formulate a strategy in order to combine what they observe in the environment with their stakeholders and the general environment with what they as an organization want to achieve. So if you would not take into account outside factors, you would miss an important innovation. You would miss what your competitors do. You would miss legal development, policy development in a specific country. And if you notice that, for example, there are specific policies in place. So, for example, the government has an idea to subsidize electric vehicles. And if you're a car company, that may inform your strategy for the coming year. So you may see, oh, well, they're going to subsidize electric vehicles. Maybe you want to focus our efforts more on manufacturing electronic vehicles. And then you redefine your strategy. So a strategy is kind of in between. So strategy is taking into account the environment and then redefining that environment into what you want to do as an organization in order to make sure that you that you are successful. So that's why you need a strategy. So it helps you kind of define goals for the future of your organization. There are a lot of different terms. You have strategy, mission, vision of an organization that all kind of relates to a strategy of an organization. And let me explain them, but let me maybe first ask, and you can type your answer in the chat. Could you give me an answer of what are the main goals of an organization? So what does an organization, if you anthropomorphize an organization a bit, what does an organization want the most? Because that helps define the mission, vision, etc. So if you have any ideas, type them in the chat. What does every organization want? Profit and survival, absolutely. Other ideas? Make profit. See if something else drops in. Maybe not. Solve a problem. Very interesting. Yeah. Make a difference. Adapt to the future. So pretty interesting. You see the different layers of strategy, mission, vision in those answers. So solving a problem may be the most concrete part that an organization wants, and an organization, I could actually define an organization in terms of solving a problem. You know, every organization, I think, wants to solve a certain problem for their clients or customers. Now differentiates also important. I think solving a specific problem and maybe also differentiating from competitors is a bit more concrete. It's also kind of relates to the strategy of an organization. Then other answers we have are contribute to society, adapt to the future, make a difference, turn a profit. Those are all very important, and it's really nice that you say both profit and making a difference, or contribute to society, because not every organization wants to make profits. You know, you have organizations that are non-profit organizations and they don't necessarily want to make a profit, although they can. but they have different goals. But the most basic thing is also there. Every organization, like the main goal of every organization, is to exist. So an organization wants to, well, basically indeed survival. So the main goal of an organization is to continue being. So it doesn't want to die. With that sort of perspective, it's similar to a living being. And in order to do it, so that's the most highest level goal you want to achieve. In order to do that, you need to find a way to do that. So basically, you want to adapt to the future, contribute to society, turn a profit. And in order to do that, you can set even more concrete goals. So how do we differentiate from our competitors, for example? So that's a more concrete goal. So that's kind of a layered approach to what an organization is. And that's quite similar to what a mission, a vision, and strategy is. So a strategy, this is on the slide here, strategy is really is pretty concrete. So it's a definition of the future direction and actions of a company as defined as approaches to achieving specific objectives. So it's pretty concrete. So it means usually strategies for organizations are formulated like, I don't know, every 5-6 years or so. It kind of depends on the innovativeness and stability of the environment and what type of organizations you are. But let's say every 5 years or so. So they develop a new strategy. This is what we'll focus on in the coming year. So our future objectives and ways to achieve those objectives. Then the mission and vision of the organization is really what defines an organization. Oftentimes, like mission and vision, they are used very interchangeable, and oftentimes, maybe almost every time, an organization formulates a mission and a vision statement, and they are not set apart. So they don't have separate mission and visions, but they have like one mission statement. But officially, there's kind of a difference, and I think it's very useful to see the difference. So basically, a mission statement of an organization is basically what the organization does. So what does the organization want to achieve, and what business is it in? So my mission is to provide information about my specialty to as many people as possible. Teaching, publishing papers, giving presentations, those kind of things. So it's basically the reason for being, and it's what you can explain to all your stakeholders. So if you have investors or customers, you use your mission statement to explain, this is what we do. We do not make screws, but we sell insurance, something like that. So that's the mission. A vision statement is, again, it's quite similar, but usually a vision statement is aimed at the future. It's what would you ideally like to be able to reach as an organization. So for me, I would like everyone in the world to learn about technology in organizations. So that would be my vision for the future, and something that I strive towards, that I want to achieve. So the image of the future direction. So you derive it from the mission, but it's a bit more focused on the future. So it's a bit more. So it's a bit more veered towards the strategy. So it's input for strategy. And again, usually mission and vision are intertwined, but I think it's useful to see the difference. Mission is what you are. The vision is what you strive for. Why is this important? Well, it is important because mission and vision describes what you are as an organization. From the mission and vision, you derive your strategy. So based on the mission and vision statement, this is what we want to accomplish in the coming years. And derived from that strategy, you can define concrete goals and objectives. For example, goals can be concrete as we want to increase sales of product X with 15% in 2 years. We want to increase customer satisfaction by this and that. We want to develop this new product. Those are specific goals and objectives derived from strategy, in turn derived from mission and vision. And of course, it's not always that clear cut. Sometimes something happens in the environment which forces you to to rapidly change your strategy. Maybe something happens that forces you to completely rethink what you are as an organization. So sometimes it's also bottom up. So that's why you see this, this arrow to the left, strategy informing mission and vision. So usually we see it kind of like top down, but it's also the other way around. To give some examples, what you usually see is that organizations do not define their mission and vision in terms very concretely, but in terms of what they actually would ideally are. So, for example, this is the strategy of Apple, at least the most recent one I could find. And this is not, we want to sell iPhones or we want to sell MacBooks. No, the mission and vision of Apple is to bringing to bringing the best user experience to its customers through innovative hardware, software, and services. And that is important because this is pretty much, so it's fairly concrete, but it's also differentiated and broad enough to do lots of different things. So with this mission and vision statement, they say, well, what we want to do. So our core is bringing user experience. So that's the core of Apple. They have also always focused on user design and user experience, providing easy to use and beautifully designed products. That's what they want to continue to keep doing. That's what sets them apart from the competition. But they do not want to do that by selling iPhones or selling iTunes, but they say we do it through innovative hardware, software, and services. So it defines in what area they are. So they are an IT company, but they do not only sell hardware and do not only sell software, but they are an integrated whole, like a platform that sells everything and that provides services, and services can be broad, this can be music, but maps, everything. But it revolves around information and it revolves around customer experience. So I think this is this is, I think, a good example of a mission and vision statement, which sets the part for the competition, but is broad enough to accommodate a lot of future technology. So if, for example, the Apple Vision, virtual reality or augmented reality, or maybe brain implants, they all fit within the mission and vision of Apple. So that's one example. I'll give another one. This is, if you're Dutch, or from Belgium, you know Ahold Delhaize. Even if you're here as an expat, you know what Albert Heijn is. Ahold is the mother company of Albert Heijn. Delhaize is a big supermarket chain in Belgium and also abroad. They recently, a couple of years ago, they had a fusion and they're now one company, Ahold Delhaize. As a result, they they integrated their mission and vision statement into this. So their mission statement, called Our Purpose, Eat Well, Save Time, Live Better, and their vision, create a leading local food shopping experience. It's kind of interesting because here you can see that clearly the mission and vision statement here is not only to explain what they do, but it's also to explain, well, to the customers, but also to their investors. So this really makes clear what their long-term goals will be. And this also contains a lot of, it's also externally focused, so it's a bit of a marketing related mission and vision. So it not only says what they want to do, but it also says how they want to achieve it. So start with the purpose. Eat well, save time, live better. Basically, grocery shopping, eat well, save time, live better. Sustainability, eco-friendliness, healthy food, they are all very important nowadays, and they will probably remain important in the foreseeable future. So that's what they focus on purpose. They not only want to sell you cheap groceries, that's what Aldi and Lidl do, but they really want to focus on the best. Eat well, save time, live better. Save time, also focused on what you see happening in the market. Save time, make grocery shopping easier. So, for example, grocery delivery is also what Ahold does. and takes up a bigger and bigger portion of their sales. Their vision is kind of similar. You also see create a leading local food shopping experience. You again see experience. We not only sell groceries, but we are an experience. Leading local, and local is kind of a marketing term because local screams healthy and environmental friendliness. So they use that as well in their mission and vision statement. So this is more like a markety a mission and vision statement, but really kind of clearly says what they want to do, or what business they're in, what they want to achieve. Okay, enough. I have other examples, and maybe a question about peanut butter later on, but for now, let's continue with the strategy. Okay. So this is kind of in a nutshell what mission, vision, and strategy is. So because the course is called Technology in Organizations, I want to say a few things about why strategy is important for technology in organizations. Well, kind of logical, this is kind of the mission statement informs the vision statement, informs the strategy, informs the goals and objectives. But those in turn also, of course, inform what you want to do with information technology and innovation in your organization. So, for example, if you look at Ahold Delhaize, they want to focus on experience. They say, what's it called? Save time. So that mission gives kind of insight into their strategy. So probably you want to focus on, grocery delivery. And if you want to focus on grocery delivery, so consumers can save time, that means that you need to invest in certain innovations and certain information technology. You need to make your groceries available online. People can order online. It involves a lot of logistics and distribution. You need all kinds of systems in place in order to do that. So if you have that strategy, save time means that your strategy probably is that you want to focus on grocery delivery. That means you have to invest heavily in the information technology and the innovations that make it possible. Logistical systems, websites to order groceries, those kind of things. So basically, your strategy, your mission, vision inform your strategy, and your strategy again inform what you want to do with technology and innovation in your organization. Kind of common sense. Okay, this is, well, I think I already explained this on this slide, but just to reiterate, what I explained here seems very structured, mission, strategy, innovation, and technology. But of course, it's similar to innovation. It's not always that structured. Sometimes things happen in the environment that force you to change. For example, suppose that the Apple Vision Pro, the 3D helmet that Apple has recently introduced, really takes off, and Samsung sees that, then Samsung need to rethink their strategy, and they will probably need to drop what they're currently doing and invest heavily in those 3D virtual reality glasses as well. I'm not saying that will happen, probably not. But you can understand that sometimes things happen in the environment. Sometimes there is technological development. Sometimes there is a new government. Sometimes your competitors suddenly do something that that you didn't know before, that force you to change your strategy. And that's what we call emergent strategies. So we have intended strategy, that is deliberate strategy. And then we have emergent strategies, that is unintentional and not deliberate strategy. Those are your realized strategies. And of course, you always set goals that you don't really meet. So you have also non-realized strategies. So it's not that bad if not everything that you planned actually makes it to reality. Okay, I haven't said that specifically, but if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat or just ask them with audio, which you probably won't do. But just feel free to post them. And if not, I'll just continue. A bit more about innovation and IT strategy. I already explained there is a relation between the general business strategy and information technology strategy, and this is a slide from one of the chapters you have to read that kind of shows that again. And just to show you, business, you have, if you look at information technology and innovation, you actually have three different areas, three different strategies that you can take into account. So you have an information strategy, you have an information technology strategy, and you have an information system strategy. I will explain what an information system is in lecture 7, 8, 7 or 8, I think 8. But it's important to realize that you never think of technology only. So you never think, oh, we need to buy this machine, or we need to buy this, or this application, or develop this application, because IT stands for information technology. So what IT does is IT helps you process information. So when you think of technological innovation, of course, sometimes you need machines, etc., but that's not our area. When you think of technological innovation, we think of information technology, and for us that involves not only thinking about technology, but thinking about information and how information is communicated and flows through the organization. So that's what we do as communication information science students. And I say this specifically to not only think about technology only, but think about what information flows through technology. So we'll explain that in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, yeah, when we talk about technology and organization and processes in organizations. Sorry. You can imagine that based on your business strategy, you want to develop something that's called an IT or innovation or information system strategy. An information system strategy is thinking about your information systems, the information and the technology that you need in your organization in order to make sure that you will attain your overall business strategies. And that may be able to grant you an advantage over competitors. So what I said about Ahold Delhaize, if your strategy is to focus on grocery delivery, you need to make sure that your website is in order, that you have logistical systems in place. So you need to think of, based on that, you need to think of what kind of systems do we need, and what kind of information do we need from the customer to us, from us to our distributors, in order to make sure that we can deliver groceries efficiently, on time, as cheaply as possible, etc. So that's what an information system strategy is. We call that, when we talk about information technology and information systems, we call that strategic alignment. And that basically means that we try to align our technological strategy with our business strategy. And similar to this slide, that you sometimes have business strategy that informs what you want to do with technology. Sometimes it's also the other way around. We call that business impact. And then we also have an interaction model. So let me explain them in a bit more detail. So business alignment means that you think of your overall business strategy. So what do we want to achieve as an organization in the coming years? And then define what you want to do with innovation and technology based on that. That's one. Business impact is the other way around. So business impact is that you look at your technology. So for example, the IT department or the research and development department or some other department in your organization observes that there are technological opportunities out there, and they inform management. And based on that, you redefine your organization's strategic objectives. So in that case, technology informs business strategy. So that's the second one. And the third one is the interaction model, because of course it's oftentimes kind of in between. So you observe, our competitor has a new information system, has a new kind of innovation. Maybe we want to do something with that. Yeah, but we already thought about that. So it kind of aligns nicely with our strategy. So usually it's sometime somewhere in between. But the most extremes of these models are business strategy informs innovation, or innovation informs business, which is impact. So to give an example, I think you all know, Twitter doesn't even exist anymore. I forgot to update the slide. You all know HEMA. Suppose HEMA says, well, we as HEMA have always had a tight relationship with our customers. Our customers really like HEMA, the brand, and they really feel they really identify with our brand. We're proud when we buy tompoes and rookworst for a non-Dutch, for the Dutch people here. So HEMA says, well, in general, we are really attuned to our customers. So maybe our strategy in the coming year will be to focus on optimal customer service. If people have questions, if they need to provide, if they want after sales service, questions about products that they want to return. Maybe our strategy for the coming years will be to upgrade our customer service. So people are maybe so concrete that people now score our customer service with 4 on a scale of 5. We want 4.5. So that's a concrete business goal. So that's a concrete strategy. Maybe as a result, they will say, well, maybe we need to invest heavily into social media customer support. So we need to buy social media management software, Hootsuite or things like that, that we can use to manage our social media, so that we can better inform our customers via Twitter, X, Instagram, TikTok, whatever is out there. So that would really be an example of business alignment. So we have redefined our strategy. We defined a strategy for the coming years. Based on that, we focus more on social media management software. Easy peasy. That's one. An example of business impact is the best example that we had a bunch of years ago, which kind of nicely explains business impact, is that nowadays every newspaper can be read on a tablet, and a lot of people don't even have a regular newspaper anymore, or only on Saturdays, and the rest of the week they get their paper delivered to them on tablet. This makes sense, and this now seems obvious, but this was really an example of business impact, because newspapers, except maybe for the NRC, was the first, I think, but in general, newspapers did not see this coming. So they were really focused on print and paper-based newspaper delivery, and suddenly they saw that many people, start buying tablets. I think market penetration of tablets went really sky high within a couple of years, and then the newspaper started thinking, well, maybe we can do something with that. Tablets are easy to read on, so maybe we can deliver our newspapers not only on paper but via tablet as well. So this is really an example of something that they saw happening in the environment. We see more people having a tablet. Maybe we should update our business strategy and also make our newspaper available online, which in the end is much cheaper than on paper, because it saves you tons of money on printing and delivery. So this is really a business impact strategy. We see something happening in the environment. We see a technological development, tablets, and we are going to change our business strategy from paper to not only paper newspapers. This is clear, right? Okay. This is all I wanted to say about strategy. So in like 40 minutes or so, I explained what a mission and vision is, what a strategy is, how strategy relates to information technology and innovation in an organization. In the remainder of the lecture, I want to explain a bunch of strategic tools that organizations can use to define their strategy. So there are really a lot of these tools. And these are just some. So you have a lot of, I call them tools, but they're not like physical tools, but they're like, tools that help you think and that help you define um, the strategic goals of an organization. I think many of them may sound familiar. You've had them in your economy class or maybe in your previous program if you did a pre-master. But maybe not all of you know all of these, so I'm going to explain them. I think we will make it up to balanced scorecard, and we don't do McFarland's teacher grid. That's maybe a bit too IT focused and a bit too specific, but we'll see how far we get. These tools are necessary to know for the exam. So, that's one. They are also needed for the business plan. So if you look at the business plan instructions, you need to do a PESTEL analysis, 5 forces analysis, and also Tracy-Wiersma analysis. But they are also very useful in practice. So if you want to start your own company, if you work on a strategic level in an organization, these are concrete tools that you can use to define strategy. Actually, if you want to write your own business plan, and if you want to go to a bank to get money from the bank, oftentimes this is what they ask for. So they ask for these kinds of analyses. So these are not only necessary to remember and forget after the exam, but maybe pretty useful to remember, or at least remember you wrote it down in any ways. Okay. Well, why these tools? That's why I'll explain that. So it helps you develop an innovation strategy. It helps you also define an IT strategy. So these tools are useful, but they are also useful to know what technology you need based on these analysis. But now we focus on technology. We focus on the tools mainly, and in later lectures, when we discuss technology more specifically, I will go back to these tools and explain the role of technology in them. Okay, let's start with PESTEL, and after that we have a short break. Sorry. PESTEL analysis is, you may, some people have also learned only STEP, so the first 4. Some have different abbreviations. There can be a bunch of different letters in there. So this is not so this is like one of the models that serve a similar function. It's an environmental analysis of your organization. PESTEL stands for political, economic, societal, technological, environmental, and legal/policy. So that is politics, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal. These are all factors in the environment that you can take into account in analyzing your strategy for your organization. For your business plan, we ask you to do a PESTEL analysis, but of course you can imagine if you want to do a full analysis, that's really like a report on its own. So what I would like to ask of you for the business plan is take 1 or 2 of these letters and explain the most important environmental factors to take into account in your business plan. So for example, if your idea for an innovative product is something sustainable, then the second E of the PESTEL analysis, that we are increasingly concerned about climate, is something to take into account. So do not do a full analysis, but explain what are the most important factors to take into account in the environment. Okay, why is this useful and what is it? So P stands for policy. This is basically taking into account what you think will happen in the policy environment of the organization. So is there a new government with new rules and new ideas? So for example, I would not apply for a job in science at the moment, because there probably are very few because of the proposed budget cuts. But I may want to apply for a job in healthcare because there are a lot of money, well, some money going to healthcare. And there are all kinds of, so we probably will no longer subsidize solar energy anymore, probably not subsidize electric cars, and other policy and policy and governmental stuff, political stuff that happens in the environment that I need to take into account, that I can take into account for my organization. So things like, what are sort of government policies? What's the political stability? Why is there a lot of corruption in the countries that I operate in? Are there changes in tax policies, labor laws, things like that I need to take into account as my organization? That's the P. E is economic. What do we see happen in the foreseeable future? Will we end in a recession? Will we have help me with what's the opposite of recession? If someone wants to type it in, but what kind of situation are we in economically? And what should we do about that? So maybe if we are Unilever, if we're in a recession, maybe we want to focus on making our product cheaper. If we are not in a recession, maybe we can differentiate and invest in some luxury brands, things like that. S is social. Society is getting older, at least in the Netherlands. So if you're an organization that develops healthcare applications, you may want to invest in senior care applications. Well, what happens in T is for technology, what happens in the technological surroundings. Those are things like what happens with innovations in battery technology, virtual reality, AI, and how do we take that into account? E is environmental. So, for example, in the Netherlands, they have a plan for a new neighborhood, an entire new village or small city somewhere in the south of Holland. But they want to build it on it's one of the lowest lying areas of the Netherlands we have. So it's like -6-7 meters below sea level. And now we're discussing, is this really the best idea? Because how long will that city exist before it's underwater? So maybe we need to take into account and build somewhere else. So those are environmental factors. Now, finally, legal and policy, of course, are kind of related. So the P and the L. So what are the different laws and legal issues in the different areas of different countries that you operate in that we need to take into account? You can look at the opportunities that pestle analysis are for you. So what kind are technological innovations, what are policy development that we can use? But you can also look at the threats in there. So do we see any threats in our business? So for example, like the environmental threats or legal threats, like new policy, new law that forces us to do differently. So you can use this both ways. You can see this both as opportunities or as threats that you need to take into account. So that's the pestle analysis. Second one, I think is most well known, 5 forces. But I suggest that we have a short break. I don't think we need exactly 15 minutes now, but maybe let's continue at 17:40, and I can get something to drink and check up on my girlfriend. She's doing, and we continue in 9 minutes. So I'll kind of pause the recording, set myself to mute, and then we'll see you in a bit. So let's continue. I see a question in the chat about seminar sessions next week. Does everyone have to present, or can we decide on the task division? First of all, everyone needs to be present, so it's compulsory to attend the workgroup session, but you can decide who will present. So your groups of 5, so I would really advise not to present all, but have 1 or 2 people do the presenting and the other ones attending. So 5 people presenting in 8-minute presentations, everyone gets 1.5 minutes. So that's a bit too much. Okay, so if there are any questions, feel free to mail or direct message or post it on Canvas or whatever. So let's continue. The lecture. So we were at the second strategic tool, which is Porter's 5 strategies. This is one of the most well-known strategic tools there is. So it's developed. So Porter is also one of the most important. Has been one of the most important organizational theories, management theories there was, and he developed this I think in the 1960s or so. So it's quite old, but it's still pretty relevant as a model. This model explains or allows you to investigate or assess how you as an organization are doing in relation to your most important stakeholders in your immediate surroundings. Porter distinguishes 5 new entrants, substitutes, suppliers, buyers, and existing competitors. They're all pretty much self-explanatory, but let me explain them shortly. So rivalry among existing competitors, let's start with that in the middle. That's easy. Rivalry among existing competitors is what the immediate competitors are doing. So if you're Unilever, what is Procter & Gamble doing? If you're Albert Heijn, what are other supermarkets doing? And depending on what they are doing, you want to try to, acknowledge that and take it into account in your strategy, either by doing the same or something to differentiate yourself. More about that in the next model. Threat of substitutes is no, let's start with bargaining powers of suppliers. Bargaining power of suppliers is basically what your suppliers are doing and how much power they have over you. So some organizations have lots and lots of different suppliers. Other organizations have only few suppliers. So if you as an organization rely on only 1 or 2 suppliers, then those suppliers have hold a lot of power over you. But if it's easy for you to switch suppliers, then you have a lot of power over your suppliers. And you can use that strategically. So like one example is, I think one of the most well-known examples is Walmart in the US. So Walmart, not only grocery, but moving consumer good chain. It's like the biggest chain in the US by far. And they hold a lot of powers over their suppliers, also over the rest of the market, their buyers as well. But they are so huge that they can basically say to their suppliers, if you don't comply with what we are doing, then we just won't sell your products in our stores. And suppliers rely on Walmart to sell their products because it's one of the biggest shops there is. So their suppliers at Walmart need to comply with Walmart wants. And they use that to try to drive prices down lower and lower. So they say to their suppliers, if you want us to sell our tomato paste, whatever, in our store, we want to buy it from you from this price. And if you don't, then tough luck, we go somewhere else or we just don't sell it. It's even more so, and that's related to the technology and innovation part of this course, that Walmart has a really has its own logistical systems in place that they use to supply their stores and keep track of what is in stock and in store, and they've actually forced their suppliers to tie their systems into their own logistical systems. So they simply say to their suppliers, if you want us to sell our product, you need to make sure that information can flow from your systems to our systems, so we can automatically update you when you need to ship to us. And if you don't, tough luck, we won't sell your product. So they are so huge that they actually can really, they can set those demands. So they have a huge bargaining power over their suppliers. For their suppliers, Walmart is a customer. So for their suppliers, their buyers have a huge power over them. So if you are one of Walmart's suppliers, Walmart is your customer, and they have a huge power over you. So you just need to do what they say, whereas you're out of business. So that's the bargaining power of buyers. So when we think of organizations, you immediately think of like consumer to business to consumer organizations, the grocery stores, things like that. But actually, most businesses are business to business organizations. And many business to business organizations only rely on a few customers. So, for example, they are specialized consultancy firms, or they make specialized products that they sell to a few select customers. So in that case, their buyers, their customers, have a lot of power over them. Other organizations, for example, if I hate Unilever or if I hate Nestle, Nestle doesn't care. I'm just one of their 5 billion customers. So I have no power over them, and they have a lot of power not only power over me, they just don't care. So they don't need to take into account me or my opinion. So that's bargaining power of buyers. Well, threat of new entrants is, I think, is also pretty clear. It's not your existing customers, but is your potential entrants. So, for example, Tesla was one of the first electric vehicle manufacturers out there. For existing car manufacturers, they were a new entrant, and they were a threat. So, because they took away part of the shares. Nowadays, it's a bit of the other way around. You have Tesla as one of the first electric vehicle automobile companies. But now many traditional manufacturers start also making electric vehicles. So they are new entrants to the electric vehicle market. So that's the threat of new entrants. Finally, you have the threat of substitutes. That's other things that can serve the same purpose as your product. So suppose you sell books, then Netflix is a potential substitute. Because it's a similar product that fulfills a similar need, entertainment, distraction, and information, but it's a different product that serves the basic need. So you need not only to take into account your existing competitors and new entrants, but also other products or other services that your customers can go to. So that in short is Porter's 5 forces, and you need to take all of them into account and analyze them in order to know how good your company is doing. And all these 5 forces can change. Your buyers can get more or less power, there can be new entrants or not. All these can change, and if there are changes in any of these 5 forces, you need to take them into account, and you may have to adopt your strategy. Well, to say something shortly about technology and innovation and these 5 forces, similar to the example I gave from Walmart, you can use information technology strategically to counter these forces. So basically what I said about Walmart forces their their suppliers to use their logistical systems, and they have the power to do that. So basically they have a lot of power over their suppliers, so they force their suppliers to connect their information systems to them. Why would they? They do that because for them it's much cheaper. So if they don't do that, they just have to keep a lot of those products of their suppliers in stock. But because they have connected their logistical systems, they can just say, oh, well, this specific store is running out of stock. They send an automatic signal to the suppliers. The suppliers get to know, we need to restock, and the suppliers can then restock the stores or restock a distribution center. So that saves Walmart a lot of time and effort because they don't need to do that manually, but it also saves them on logistical costs because they don't need to have a large logistical system or stock in place of a specific product. They just outsource that to the suppliers. So that's how you can use technology to counter or make use of the power you have over your suppliers. And basically for everything, there are examples. So the pillar here, new entrants, existing competitors, threat of substitutes. Those are basically, you can think of using technology to make you more competitive. So for example, you can be one of the new entrants if you, in a certain market, if you invest in new technology or innovation. You can invest heavily in technology and innovate, so you become more competitive. So you are the best among your competitors. So you can focus on making your product better than even alternative products, make Netflix even easier so that people are less likely to read books. So basically the vertical pillar here revolves around innovation. So you can counter what your competitors and possible new competitors can do by innovating. Finally, buyers. You can also use technology strategically for your buyers. And the best example is the lock-in strategy that Apple and Samsung and Google have. So I don't know if some of you have sometimes switched from a Samsung platform or Android platform to Apple or the other way around. It's pretty difficult. And each company offers several tools that make the switch easier, but it's not easy. You have your iCloud, you have your iTunes account, you have your Apple ID, you have your photos in the cloud. And with Samsung similar, with Google similar. They all offer it as a service. So it's easy, you have one place, Google for your photos, your documents, your smartphone, everything. But it's not actually to make things easier for you, it's to prevent you from using competitive products. I am completely locked into the Google space. So for me, it would be really difficult to switch to Apple. I am locked in. So that's why they offer those innovative services and IT services for that. Well, of course, also to make life easier and to offer good products, but also to lock in us. Okay, that's Porter's 5 forces. Oh, there we are. The next strategic tool is, it's again from Porter. Like I said, he was pretty important in the management literature. And this is generic. This is called Porter's generic competitive strategies. So this is a way to look at your direct competition. Basically, a way to look here, what's happening here, and maybe a bit new entrants and substitutes, but mainly what are your competitors doing and how can I take that into account? This is basically a tool to kind of find out what suits you best as a general strategy as an organization. Let me explain. Porter says, as an organization, you can either focus on cost or differentiation, one dimension, and you can focus on a large market, so industry-wide, or you can focus on a niche market with relatively few customers. Cost means that you want to focus on the lowest offering products for the lowest price, so keeping costs as low as possible. Differentiation means that you of course, you all focus to cost to some extent, but you mainly focus on making a product that sets you apart from the competition. differentiating your product. Basically, if you think cost, think Lidl, Aldi as grocery stores. If you focus on differentiation, think Apple. You can focus on industry wide. You can focus on industry wide, or you can have a more focused strategy. Industry wide basically means we focus on the whole market. So, for example, Aldi and Apple are organizations that do not specifically tailor to a specific market, but are tailored to basically everyone who is interested or can afford their products. So they're not focused. If you have a focus strategy, you specifically say, we try to find out who our specific customers will be, and we develop a product or service that is focused on those customers. So that basically means that you see this mainly in business to business. Okay, we make tires for a few specific car manufacturers, so we focus on it. Or we make phones for, you have phone companies that make rugged phones and companies that make rugged laptops, which rugged means that you can basically drop them from a couple of meters and nothing happens. And they mainly produce for people who work in the work in the environment, like oil drilling or for the military or so. So they make specific applications for that market. So that's a focused strategy. And this is this is an extremely simple tool, but this is basically to kind of redefine who you want to be as an organization. So if you focus on costs, you don't want to invest heavily in making your store look great. You don't want to invest heavily in customer contact. You just want to be cheap. And that involves a lot, that involves trying to see if you can outsource things to cheaper manufacturing countries, if you could skip on, so that you can skip on labor costs. Maybe you don't need extensive customer service. Well, if you differentiate, you want to invest more in making your customers happy, because price is not that important. But this is also important for your business plan. So this is one tool. I want to explain one more, which is quite similar. So this is called Tracy and Biersma's value disciplines. And this is, again, quite similar to Porter's generic competitive strategies. But I think it may be a bit more clear. They say there are 3 things you can focus on as an organization, and you cannot focus on all of them. So you should pick 1, maybe 2 that you want to be the best in. They say you can focus on either product leadership. This is similar to the cost strategy. This is similar to the differentiating strategy from Porter. So product leadership means you make the best product there is. So not necessarily the cheapest, but the best. The best bread, the best laptop, whatever. That one. Operational excellence is similar to a cost strategy. So this is similar to the cost strategy from Porter. Here you focus on operational excellence, which means you try to be cheap. Well, not cheap as in the informal definition, but focus on cost and getting down costs. It's also called operational competence because you focus on keeping the whole process of manufacturing or delivering the service as cheap as possible. Again, think Lidl. Finally, you can focus on customer intimacy, and that means the best customer experience. So focus on making your customers happy. Tracy and Wiersma say you can differentiate yourself in 1, maybe 2, but you cannot do all 3 to the best of your advantage. So maybe some organizations can, but usually organizations focus on 1 or 2. That's what the leadership value is. So that's this outer circle. So you as an organization can focus on being here, or so maybe here, but not necessarily on this. Of course, you should not splurge. but maybe these two are what you focus on. And for other organizations, may be different. But they also say for each of these, you have kind of a threshold value. That's the inner circle here. So that means that you need to do all of them to a certain extent. Basically, okay, you can try to be as cheap as possible, but you at least need to offer some quality. Think Temu, or what Temu doesn't always deliver. You can focus on being a product leader, so making a wonderful product, but you should focus on costs at least to a certain extent. You cannot let it run out of control. And similar with customer intimacy, even if you don't focus on customer all that much, there needs to be some basic level of customer satisfaction. So that's this. So every organization has a certain threshold, so we need to do this, but this outer circle is what sets us apart. So basically what they say, you should do everything a bit, the inner circle, but you cannot do all of it. So you should pick one or two that you're focused on. The question is, are there organizations that do all three? I don't know. If you have any idea of organizations that do all three of those, let me know in the chat. I immediately think of HEMA again, because HEMA is not that expensive. They really have kind of, they're almost camp. It's cool to buy stuff from the HEMA. So they're cheap. They differentiate themselves with nice products, and they also have, you identify with them as a customer. So maybe HEMA, but maybe there are other examples as well. But usually you see a kind of a focus. Apple clearly focuses on product leadership, and maybe a bit customer intimacy. Aldi clearly focuses on operational excellence. So again, this is important for your business plan, but in general, this is a useful tool to look at what type of organization you are. My mouse is gone. Ah, there it is. Okay, we have 2 tools more to go. They are also relatively easy to explain, and I think also well known. So I'm not going, so especially this one, SWOT analysis, I'm not going to explain that in detail because everyone knows what it is. It may sound silly to even discuss this as a strategic tool, but this is actually what you basically start with if you want to do a kind of strategic analysis of your organization. So for example, I think I mentioned it last week, we as a program, Communication Information Science, we have our accreditation this year, which basically means that an external committee will come to us and poke around in our program to see what we do well, what we could do better, and give their advice and give an official recommendation of what if we are a good program, which is very important because you need to be good in order to remain a program. So if you do badly, then the government could disallow you from having students enter your program. So of course that doesn't happen to us, but that means accreditation is pretty important. So basically what we do now is we use all these tools to start the accreditation process. So we have done well, not all of them are important, but we have done a PESTEL analysis. So we have looked at what is happening in the environment. What are our competitors doing? What are developments? So we see less students overall in the Netherlands. Current government doesn't want that many international students anymore. So those are all kinds of things that are happening in the environment that we try to analyze. We've looked at our competitors, should start looking into that. What are other programs, communication and communication information science programs doing, and what makes us different and unique? And what we are going to do, well, this for us is less important. We are a different type of organization. But this well, we actually have a meeting on Wednesday in which we will discuss this. So we will do a SWOT analysis. So based on our competitors, based on the PESTEL analysis, we will really in detail analyze what we do well, what we could do better, what opportunities and what threats we have. So for example, one of our strengths is that we're very flexible in the mastery. Students can pick any course they want, and students love the flexibility. So that's one of our strengths. One of our weaknesses may be that we may not have it may not be very clear what the job market will be. If you can pick any course you like, it's not very clear what is your exact profession. So maybe that's one of our weaknesses. Threats is, for example, the budget cuts that the government wants in higher education. Opportunities, I don't know with what opportunities we have. I think with the program we have, there are many opportunities for a more focus on new technologies, AI, new business opportunities. So that may be opportunities in our program. So this is what we concretely will be doing this Wednesday. But this is also, if you as an organization want to think of your strategy, want to think of an innovation, want to think of what makes our product unique, this is what you do. So it's a very simple tool, but it's a very useful tool. So again, SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, and these are what you see on the slide here is just not that something that you need to learn by heart, but basically some examples of what for a specific organization can be those S, W's, O's, and T's. So I'm trying to make sure that my face is in the shade, and then I know, it looks like I'm wearing a mask. Is it there? So the last one I want to discuss, and probably be done a bit earlier, is the balanced scorecard. And that ties in nicely with the beginning of the lecture. So in the beginning of the lecture, I explained mission, vision, strategy, and then I said, well, strategy is something that is pretty concrete, and you can really define your strategy in terms of concrete goals and objectives that you want to achieve. Balanced scorecard, not the only one, but is one of the many tools that are out there to actually do that, to really concretely define how to attain your strategic goals. So what's balanced scorecard? Balanced scorecard is developed to translate strategic objectives into concrete projects with concrete outcomes. So with concrete objectives, concrete measures and targets and initiatives. Interesting about the balanced scorecard is that because in an organization, especially in a for-profit organizations, people tend to focus heavily on finances. So how can we earn more, become more profitable? Balanced scorecard says, no, this is only one of the things that you focus on. Even if making profit is very important as an organization, you should focus on other things as well, because they will in the end lead to you becoming more profitable, or at least continue to exist as an organization. So they say the financial perspective is one, but you also need to take into account your customers, your internal processes, and your knowledge and innovation, called learning and growth. So you need to focus on 4 different pillars. And of course, you can argue, are these pillars that are most important? Don't you need to focus on other stakeholders like suppliers or so? Maybe in some instances, but this is what they have defined. And if you want to include suppliers as an additional factor, fine. But the main thing is that you do not only focus on the financial aspects, but you focus on more than that, and you try to make all of those as concrete as possible. So this is a tool that you can really use to make strategic objectives very concrete. I'll explain this on the next slide. But you can also use it to initiate innovation in IT projects, because you can say, okay, well, if this is what we want to achieve, what would we need? So if we want to improve our customer satisfaction, buyer satisfaction, then maybe we should invest in customer relationship management software. and train our employees in using that so we can better reach our customers. So this can inform innovation and information technology in the organization. So how can we make this more concrete? Well, like I said, this is the nice thing about the balanced scorecard, is that you start with strategic objectives, but then you make them extremely concrete. So they really make them what is called SMART. You know, I always forget what it's for, but you make them measurable and attainable within a certain time frame. So just very concrete goals. So this is just an example on this slide, but so say your strategic objectives for the coming years is to increase your profit margin. Based on that, you define concrete measures. Okay, profit margin, we define that as our net profit. You have different kinds of profit as an organization you can focus on. Based on those measures, you define targets. We want to increase our profits, our net profit, with 5% over 2 years. And then based on that, you develop concrete initiatives with which you attain that. Okay, we want to lower our costs. We want to invest in new equipment that will make our products cheaper. So not cheaper, but we can produce our products cheaper and sell them for the same price. So increase profit. And you can do this for every aspect of the balanced scorecard. So for example, if you want to increase customer satisfaction, this one, you can say, okay, you want to focus on after sales satisfaction. So not customer satisfaction, people are in store, but are they satisfied once they have bought the product or service? How do we do that? Well, maybe we now do regular customer survey, after sales surveys. Our customers do now rate us 7 out of 10. Within 1 year, we want to be rated 8 out of 10. And from there, you develop concrete initiatives. So the same is for the rest. So you can, for example, internal, focus on people identifying with your organization, so more commitment or satisfaction that your employees have. You can optimize processes, so have the people in your organization produce things cheaper or quicker. So 10% quicker time from your order to the actual delivery at home. You can focus on learning organizations. Okay, we want to innovate, develop new initiatives, which concretely is we want to have 5 innovations to market in 5 years. So again, these are just examples. These are not given by the balanced scorecard, but this is just to show you how you can go from a more general strategic objective to via defining different measures, different targets, to specific initiatives to which you attain. So you can actually make it measurable and attainable. And like I said, the balanced scorecard is one of like dozens of different tools that basically do the same, going from strategic objectives to something that is actually measurable and concrete. And this, I think, kind of nicely wraps it up, because this again goes back to strategy. I want to end with next week. Next week, we have a lecture, again on Monday. The lecture will be on campus by Ali. It's about structure and culture of an organization. But also next week, we have the first workgroup sessions. Pretty important is that, again, the number of workgroup you're in defines when you have your workgroup session. Also important is that we start at the exact time. So we do not start at 8:45, we start at 8:30. Maybe 1 or 2 minutes later, but I expect everyone to be there at 8:30 or 10:30, whatever. Because we have 6 presentations and we need the time in order to be finished in time and give everyone the appropriate amount of time for presentation and feedback. So remember that. Please prepare a presentation. Well, I want to end with again thanking you, and I hope this really was a one-time thing, and then we can back, and that we and I and Ali can go back to on-campus teaching from next week onwards. But you know, time will tell. Thank you very much. and I will hopefully see you next week in person during workgroup sessions. Thanks.